Friends, gather around for tonight we delve into the captivating world of international dairy trade, specifically the US-Canada dairy dust-up. You see, former President Trump, a man known for his nuanced grasp of global economics, repeatedly claimed Canada slapped a 250% tariff on American dairy. He wasn't wrong. Technically, this is where things get creamy. Those sky-high tariffs, they only kick in under very specific circumstances, like when a lactose-tolerant vampire decides to bulk order American yogurt. In reality, Canada uses a system called tariff rate quotas, or TRQs, because apparently, bureaucracy, the musical wasn't catchy enough. Under this system, a certain amount of American dairy products waltz into Canada tariff-free. Think of it like a buy one get your buddy through customs free deal, but if America tries to send more than that agreed upon amount, bam, the 250% tariff rears its ugly head. Now you might think American dairy farmers are drowning in unsold cheese, right? Wrong. Despite this tariff tightrope walk, the US has consistently shipped over $1 billion worth of dairy to Canada annually. In 2024 alone, that number jumped a whopping 55% from 2020. Turns out, America wasn't even close to hitting Canada's dairy quota. It's like getting a free pass to an all-you-can-eat cheese buffet and only eating a single mozzarella stick. So, why the low turnout? Well, Canada loves its dairy farmers, and by love we mean they've made it really hard for American dairy to compete. See, Canada allocates most of its import quotas to, wait for it, domestic dairy producers. These fine folks have about as much incentive to import American dairy as a vegan has to crash a cheese festival. But wait, there's more. Canada also employs some sneaky non-tariff barriers. For example, remember RBST? That controversial growth hormone some American farmers inject into cows? Yeah, Canada's not a fan. They've banned it outright, making American milk about as welcome as a skunk at a picnic. And then there's the quota allocation itself. The US cries foul, claiming Canada's system is just a fancy way of saying no American dairy allowed. They even took their case to a special trade court. Initially the US felt the sweet taste of victory, but in a shocking turn of events, a later ruling sided with Canada, leaving American dairy farmers in a state of way. Now you might be thinking, John, this is all very interesting, but does it really matter? After all, dairy makes up a tiny fraction of the overall US-Canada trade relationship. And you'd be right, it's like complaining about the price of sprinkles on a $10,000 sundae. But here's the thing, dairy is politically potent. It's about protecting local farmers, national pride, and most importantly, scoring points with voters. By hammering on about Canadian tariffs, politicians can stir up public outrage, even if the reality is more nuanced than a block of aged cheddar. So, the next time you hear a politician crying over spilled milk, or in this case, unsold cheese, remember, there's often more to the story than meets the eye. And always check the expiration date on your political rhetoric, because sometimes it's just past its prime.
Entering the eye of the storm, Trump returns to a shaky Oval Office. The year is 2025. Global markets teeter on a knife's edge. Uncertainty hangs in the air, thick and heavy, and then he's back. Donald Trump, re-elected, strides back into the Oval Office. The world holds its breath. This is not 2016. This time, the stakes are higher. The global stage is set for a dramatic act. Buckle up, folks. It's about to get bumpy. Trump's return was supposed to signal stability, a return to greatness. Instead, it ushered in an era of unprecedented chaos. His first move, a wrecking ball aimed straight at the heart of global trade. The markets brace for impact. What follows is a masterclass in economic self-sabotage. $10 trillion tsunami tariff torpedo sinks global markets. $10 trillion. That's the staggering sum wiped off global markets in just 1 week. Trump's weapon of choice? Tariffs. Those pesky little taxes on imports wielded like a blunt instrument. The financial world reels. Experts scramble for explanations using words like tsunami and earthquake. The S&P 500 plummets by 11%. A sea of red engulfs trading floors worldwide. Pension funds bleed value. Retirement dreams evaporate. The American public, promised prosperity, are left holding the bag. But wait, there's more. Trump, seemingly oblivious to the carnage, doubles down. Permanent tariffs, he declares. The markets shudder. Is this the end of the global economic order as we know it? Doublespeak and market mayhem contradictions reign supreme. Trump's economic pronouncements are a symphony of contradictions. He champions open borders while simultaneously erecting walls of tariffs. He rails against immigration while claiming to love Mexicans. Except, it seems, when they're sending goods to America. The business world is left utterly bewildered. Confusion reigns supreme. Investors, accustomed to some semblance of logic, are left scratching their heads. Uncertainty becomes the only certainty. The very foundations of global trade, built on predictability and trust, crumble. Meanwhile, Trump, the self-proclaimed master deal-maker, has struck a deal with chaos itself. Section 4. Shifting sands of global power. A new world order emerges. As America retreats behind its tariff walls, the rest of the world adapts. China, sensing an opportunity, strengthens ties with the European Union and developing nations. A new trade order begins to take shape, one where America is no longer the undisputed leader. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, sensing weakness in the old guard, expand their alliance. 23 countries, representing 55% of the global population and 37% of global GDP, are now knocking on their door. The balance of power is shifting. The world is no longer content to dance to America's tune. Section 5. America fading star or setting sun. The consequences of Trump's actions are far-reaching and potentially irreversible. The American economy, once the envy of the world, is now a source of instability and uncertainty. Global trust in American leadership has eroded. The shining city on a hill has dimmed its lights, seemingly content to stew in its own self-inflicted chaos. The world watches, a mixture of pity and apprehension in their eyes. Is this the beginning of the end of American dominance, or can the nation pull itself back from the brink? Only time will tell. One thing is certain, the world is changing, and America under Trump's leadership seems determined to be on the wrong side of history.
The global economic landscape is shifting. A group of nations known as BRICS is challenging the established order. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 countries have experienced significant economic growth in recent decades. They have become major players on the world stage. Their combined economic power is undeniable. BRICS nations are seeking to reduce their reliance on the US dollar. This movement is called de-dollarization. It involves conducting international trade in local currencies. It also involves using alternative reserve currencies. The goal is to create a more multipolar world. BRICS aims to diminish the influence of the West. The BRICS nations believe that the current system is unfair. They argue that the US dollar gives the United States an unfair advantage. The US can impose sanctions on other countries. It can manipulate the global financial system to its benefit. BRICS seeks to level the playing field. The movement towards de-dollarization is gaining momentum. Several countries have joined BRICS in recent years. These include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. These nations are looking for alternatives to the US-dominated financial system. They see BRICS as a viable alternative. Indonesia, a Southeast Asian giant, has announced its intention to join BRICS. This is a significant development. Indonesia is the world's 4th most populous country. It boasts a rapidly growing economy. Its inclusion in BRICS further strengthens the bloc's economic clout. Indonesia's decision to join BRICS is driven by several factors. Like other developing nations, Indonesia is concerned about the dominance of the US dollar. It seeks to reduce its vulnerability to fluctuations in the US economy. Indonesia also aims to strengthen its trade ties with other BRICS nations. Indonesia's economic potential is enormous. With a population exceeding 280 million and a GDP of over $1.3 trillion, the country is a major player in Southeast Asia. Its decision to join BRICS could encourage other nations in the region to follow suit. This would further shift the balance of power away from the West. The addition of Indonesia to BRICS is a clear sign of the times. The world is moving towards a multipolar system. The US dollar's dominance is being challenged. The United States, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, has reacted with hostility to the rise of BRICS and the de-dollarization movement. Trump views these developments as a direct threat to U.S. economic and geopolitical hegemony. He has repeatedly lashed out at BRICS nations, accusing them of unfair trade practices and currency manipulation. Trump's primary weapon in this economic war has been tariffs. He has imposed tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union. These tariffs are designed to protect American industries and jobs. However, they have also sparked retaliatory tariffs from targeted nations, leading to a trade war that has hurt businesses and consumers on all sides. Trump's aggressive trade policies have further alienated U.S. allies and damaged the country's reputation on the world stage. His actions are seen by many as reckless and counterproductive, undermining the rules-based international trading system that the U.S. itself helped to create. The rise of BRICS and the de-dollarization movement represent a significant challenge to the established global order. The U.S. dollar's dominance is being questioned. Alternative financial institutions are emerging. The world is moving towards a more multipolar system. The new development bank, established by the BRICS nations, is a prime example of this shift. The NDB provides loans and other financial assistance to developing countries, often bypassing the traditional institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. This provides an alternative for nations seeking to avoid the conditions and policies often associated with Western-dominated financial institutions. The long-term consequences of these developments remain to be seen. However, one thing is clear: the world is changing. The era of unchallenged U.S. dominance is coming to an end. A new multipolar world is emerging. This new world will be characterized by greater competition and a more diffuse distribution of power. The challenge for all nations will be to navigate this new landscape and build a more just and equitable global order.
Friends, Americans, fellow humans, gather around, for today we delve into the wild world of international trade, where the stakes are high, the players are volatile, and the deals are, well, let's just say interesting. Our protagonist, none other than the man himself, Donald J. Trump, master negotiator, real estate mogul, and if you believe his Twitter feed, the single greatest dealmaker in the history of dealmaking. His latest conquest, a tariff tango with our neighbors to the north, Canada. Now you might be asking yourself, Trevor, why Canada? Aren't they supposed to be our friendly, maple syrup-loving neighbors? And you'd be right. But in the world of Trumpian economics, even the friendliest of neighbors aren't safe from the wrath of tariffs. So, what exactly is this tariff tango all about? Well, picture this. The Trump administration, in all its wisdom, decided to slap a hefty 25% tariff on imported cars. Now, I'm no economist, but even I can tell you that slapping a tax on something usually makes it more expensive, and that's precisely what happened. Cars from Canada, those beautiful, well-engineered machines, suddenly became more expensive for American consumers. We're talking thousands of dollars more, but wait, there's more. This tariff tango wasn't just bad for American wallets, it was bad for American jobs too. The Canadians, being the polite and reasonable folks they are, weren't exactly thrilled about this whole tariff business. In fact, they were downright miffed. Their Prime Minister, the ever-so-calm and collected Mark Carney, responded with a firm yet measured hand. Carney, a man known for his economic prowess, didn't mince words. He called the tariffs unjustified and protectionist, and vowed to retaliate with targeted tariffs of their own. It was a classic case of you hit us, we hit back, but with a Canadian politeness that somehow made it seem less like a trade war and more like a passive-aggressive dinner party. But it wasn't just the politicians who were feeling the heat. Everyday Canadians, from Vancouver to Halifax, were left scratching their heads and wondering what they'd done to deserve such treatment. For decades, Canada had been a steadfast ally and trading partner with the United States. They stood shoulder to shoulder with us through thick and thin, and this is how we repay them, with tariffs. The sentiment on the Canadian street was clear betrayal. Veterans who had fought alongside American soldiers felt particularly let down. As the tariff tango between the US and Canada heated up, the rest of the world watched with a mixture of amusement and trepidation. After all, when the world's two largest trading partners start throwing economic punches, everyone feels the impact. And impact there was. Stock markets around the globe took a nosedive as investors grew increasingly concerned about the escalating trade war. The S&P 500, a key indicator of the US stock market's health, plummeted by 2% in the wake of Trump's tariff announcement. But the damage went far beyond mere dollars and cents. The tariffs and the rhetoric that accompanied them eroded trust between the two nations. The United States, once seen as a champion of free trade, was now perceived by many as a bully in the global marketplace. The implications for the future of free trade were dire. If the US, under the leadership of Donald Trump, was willing to abandon its long-standing commitment to open markets, what message did that send to the rest of the world? Now, some might argue that Trump's tariff tactics were all part of a grand plan, a cunning strategy to secure better trade deals for America. They might point to his self-proclaimed title as a master negotiator as evidence of his brilliance, but let's be honest, folks, this wasn't master negotiation. This was Trump being Trump. It was impulsive, it was erratic, and it was all about projecting an image of strength, regardless of the consequences. Remember when Trump claimed his Mar-a-Lago resort was worth 10 times its actual value? Or how about his brilliant plan to build a wall along the US-Mexico border and make Mexico pay for it? Oh, and let's not forget his genius idea to power said wall with solar panels. The man's a walking, talking comedy of errors, and his approach to trade is no different. He seems to operate under the assumption that international diplomacy is just like one of his real estate deals, where bluster and intimidation are the keys to success. So, who gets the last laugh in this tariff tango? Certainly not the American consumer, who's stuck paying higher prices for cars and other goods, and not the Canadian worker who's facing job losses and economic uncertainty. And let's not forget the long-term damage to the US-Canada relationship. A bond built on trust, cooperation, and mutual respect. No, the only one who might be laughing is Trump himself, at least for now. But as history has shown, time and time again, the last laugh often belongs to those who can tell the difference between a good deal and a bad joke. And in this case, the joke's on us.